Well, finding a house in our capital cities for under $1 million can be a daunting task these days, but we have tracked down the suburbs where you can buy one for even less.
So, these are the areas where you can find houses for under $750,000. So in southeast Queensland, look at Redbank Plains. In Sydney, consider Austral. Pakenham and Craigieburn are places to watch in Melbourne. In Adelaide, look at Morphett Vale, while Baldivis, about an hour out of Perth, rounds out our list. Joining us for more is Nerida Conisbee from Ray White. Nerida, morning to you. So this is really helpful for people looking to try and crack into just such a difficult market. How much harder is it becoming to try and find an affordable home?
It is getting a lot harder, and there are so many fewer homes available priced under $750,000. So even compared to 2022 to 23, there has been a drop of about 20% in the number of homes available at this affordable price point.
OK, so you have to keep looking. We've also got the suburbs where you can find units for under $500,000. So here they are on the screen. Brisbane City and Surfers Paradise top the list for southeast Queensland. There's also Liverpool in Sydney, Melbourne and Adelaide CBD, and in Perth the CBD, also Maylands make the cut. What's behind so many inner city suburbs being on that list?
A lot of it has to do with town planning that's been put in place over a prolonged period of time. So if you have a look at Melbourne CBD, since 1990, there has been a very strong focus in trying to get affordable housing. A lot of it does focus on students and having affordable student accommodation. But now we've got places like Surfers Paradise that were places people tended to buy holiday homes. They're now being converted into more first home buyer accommodation.
Right.
What about Melbourne, Nerida? What in particular makes it an affordable location, especially for apartments?
So there just has been so much development, so thousands and thousands of apartments being built, particularly last decade. There was a lot of money coming in from Asia and China in particular. It did kick off a lot of construction. But also the City of Melbourne has been really focused in trying to get lots of affordable housing in the inner suburbs of Melbourne.
With such an oversupply then, if we're looking at that, is it actually a good investment? You know, they're affordable for a reason, these places. Do you see them as good investments?
Well, last decade it did look like oversupply. So there was a lot of concern that there was too many homes being built, they weren't going to be used, you couldn't rent them. But it has turned around primarily because construction costs have increased so much. So buying an apartment in these areas tends to be a much better investment now because it's very hard to build them at such a low cost compared to what it was like prior to the pandemic.
And so if you're sitting on the sidelines and you've been watching the prices go up and watched it be so hard to build anything, what are your top tips for people?
Well, I think if you're a first home buyer, get a really good understanding on what's available. There are a lot of things available both from state and federal government, so I think that's the first step. Second step is looking at apartment versus house, because on one hand, you tend to be able to buy a more affordable home on the outskirts of a city, but you do have to travel quite far. If you are prepared to live in an apartment, you can live in quite an inner area, so I think there's that to consider. And then also consider how much you can borrow. I think fundamentally buying a home isn't about timing, it's about your affordability from your own perspective. Can you get a deposit together? Can you pay back the mortgage? What's going to happen to interest rates? We don't know. Hopefully they'll cut this year, but you know, there is a lot of uncertainty about the outlook for interest rates as well.
Yeah, hopefully they do come down, probably not till November, but still some light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you, Nerida.
Thanks for having me.